What is up, you guys? Welcome to the third video in our geometric poster design series. We are working on creating this really cool geometric poster, and every one of you is going to get to create your own that's totally unique with your own colors and fonts and design and everything. And so in this video, I'm going to be talking about text and transforming objects. And so this is really important, especially as you're creating your poster, and it'll also give you that personal flair, choosing your own fonts, your own styles, how you want it to look. So we're going to be talking about some important things, the different types of text you'll be working with in Illustrator, also styling your text, fonts, your leading, your arrangement, all that stuff. We're going to be talking about Adobe's tool called Adobe Fonts, which is similar to the color tool we used in the last video. And then we're also going to be talking about how to transform objects, things like reflecting, rotating, duplicating, things that will be really important as you work on creating your geometric poster. So without further ado, let's jump into the video. All right, we're here in Adobe Illustrator. If you have not already, go ahead and download this file from the link in the description so that you can follow along with everything that I do. Okay, so we're gonna talk about text first. Over here on the left, we see our type tool. Remember, you can hold down on anything that has this little piece at the bottom and you can see everything underneath it. There's a lot of options here. We're really gonna focus just on this type tool and specifically two different ways to use it. So the first one is if you simply click in an area and then type something, you will get some text. And so one thing to note is right here, you see this little dot, that is your anchor for your text line. And so something important is that that is going to be where your text scales from. So, so if I type something, see how it's coming out from that center point. The way that we change that, that's our text alignment, and that's going to be changed up here in the top or in your paragraph panel. So in the paragraph panel, I can change to left align, right align. I can also do these justified ones, which you'll see don't do anything right now. I'll show you how we use those in a minute. So that is how you create something with the type tool. So you really just click it somewhere and then use this tool. This is probably the one that I use the most because usually you're not using massive amounts of text in Illustrator. That's better for InDesign. Sometimes you will, but in general, that's kind of how I do it. So that's using the point type tool. Go ahead and try it yourself. The other option, click T again to get back to our type tool, is instead of clicking, we're gonna click and drag. And so this is gonna create a text area. So text areas are great for longer bits of text and justification. Okay, I hope I spelled all that right. All right, so what's helpful for text boxes like this is that you can actually adjust the size of them and they will dynamically adjust your text as well. Okay, so there's a lot of different ways that you can use this. This is where you can use things like the justification. I hate justified type in general, but it allows you to use it a little bit better here. And so you'll notice that it's no longer using that little, the little anchor over here to adjust it. It's all gonna be relative to this whole box and you can scale it any way that you want. All right, so I'm gonna put this back to the left and now I'm gonna show you how to actually adjust our style of our type. So I'm gonna click both of these just so you can see how it all works together. Over here, we've got our character panel. And so if you're not seeing all these other options, make sure you click the little hamburger and click show options. So up here we have our different fonts. By default, Myriad Pro is the one that Illustrator will give you. I kind of hate it just because I see it by default all the time. So in here, you've got your fonts. There's tons of different ones that you can use. I've got a lot that have been downloaded, and I'll show you a little more about that in a moment. You can also filter through. So say I'm looking for a slab serif font. It'll give me fonts. It's not perfect, but it'll in general give me fonts that are just slab serifs. So you can find something that kind of fits what you're thinking. I'm gonna go kind of my favorite font, one I recommend is Proxima Nova. It's a really, really great font. I love it a lot. All right, so we'll just put it there. So a few things to note over here, all these options, if you hover over them and you want to be imprecise and you just want to get something in general, you can actually scroll up and down and it's going to give you, it's going to let you change these things. So I'm gonna go through them real quick. This is our text size, pretty straightforward. This is our leading. So that's the height in between your lines. You'll notice it's not happening over here on this point type unless I were to click return and make a new line, then it will also adjust it over there. You also have your kerning. I wouldn't worry about this so much. Optical is a great one to use because it just works a little better in general, but if you don't know what you're doing, just leave it on auto for now. Tracking, I use this one a lot. So this increases the space between all of your letters. Over here, we've got our text height. So general rule is never use these unless you really have to, or if you use them, only do something like maybe 96. I'll use that sometimes if I need to squish letters just a little, but general rule, do not squish type. It looks terrible. You have your baseline shift, which shifts the type up above that anchor. So you see how it's extending out of that box. And then you have rotation, which I don't think I really ever use, very, very infrequently. And then lastly, you've got things like all caps, what is this called? Lowercase, small caps, there you go. Superscript, subscript, underline, and strike through. So you can use those in different ways. And then down here, you've got snapping options. I'm not gonna cover that. But that should give you a general idea of how to use type. And so before we go any further, I'm actually gonna show you how to find great fonts on a tool called Adobe Fonts. All right, so if you go to fonts.adobe.com/fonts, I've got a link in the description, you will find Adobe Fonts. This is formerly called Typekit, but this is a really great tool. If you have any kind of Adobe subscription, you have access to all of these fonts, and there are so many to choose from. They've got a lot of great features over here to where you can choose different styles that you're looking for, and it'll kind of filter through to find things that are friendly, find things that are futuristic, marker. Don't really know how you'd use a marker font. Maybe you want to, something that's shaded. There's just a ton of options. You can also go over here, let's go back to clean, and you can change the classification. So serif, sans serif, slab serif, script, handwritten, mono. It's awesome. You can change the weight you're looking for, how wide, how tall your X height is, the contrast. There's just so many options. And so whenever you find a font that you like, you can view the family. Here you'll be able to see all of the different weights that are included with this font. So as it gets thicker, any alternates that they have, they got a mono-spaced version. And so what I can do, if you want to select individual ones, you can activate them. Or if you want to activate all of them, you can click up here and choose any of these. And so if I activate them, then they've been activated on my account. And since I'm logged in, now if I want to use this font, which I don't really love it, but it's kind of cool, we'll give it a shot. I can use this in Adobe Illustrator. All right, so back in Illustrator, I'm gonna click my text again. I'm gonna type Z. I don't even remember how this one was spelled. Yeah, okay, so look, now this font is already ready to go in Illustrator and I can just pull it right in. So I want you to find a font that you really like that you can use for your poster design. All right, so next things I'm gonna show you are the transforming options. These are pretty simple and fun. So one option is Alt or Option. If you hold and drag, you'll create a duplicate, which I think we've already covered. That's a pretty basic one, but really useful. You're gonna wanna use that a lot to create duplicates of different things, and it works for text or it works for shapes. Down here, I'm gonna show you 3 different tools. So the duplicate is what I just showed you. So what I want you to do is kind of follow along here. So I'm gonna duplicate it from this little edge here, this anchor. And then from this one, it'll give me kind of this little cool icon looking thing. That could even be your first logo. There you go. Another thing is our rotate tool. So just like the scale tool, changing your point will just determine where it rotates from. So I'm gonna rotate from the center here. And also if we hold shift, it's gonna lock us into specific proportions, which for me are, and probably for you by default, are 45 and 90-degree angles. And so what's cool is I can combine holding shift and holding option or alt, and it's gonna duplicate actually the shape. So now look, if I hold it, I can create duplicates, which is kind of cool. You can also, since I made this to where it'll fit perfectly, if you want to make a decagon, there you go. There you go. So look, that was one triangle and we just duplicated it and rotated it a bunch of times. Last thing is the reflect tool. The keyboard shortcut for this is O, and if I missed it, the one for rotate is R. So for O, you're gonna do the same thing, changing your anchor point and also holding option, and I'll make a duplicate, and then I'm gonna change it to here and then change it back. There you go. So now we've duplicated these different things and rotated them in unique ways, which is kind of fun. So your challenge is see if you can follow along and do the same thing that we just did. And so that's really all it is. One last thing I want to show you, going back to the type tool, that can be really helpful. So if you're working with one piece and you're like, I think it's a little too big, let's make this 58. It's a little smaller, but then you're like, oh man, now my other type doesn't match it. You can use that eyedropper tool, which is eye. It doesn't just work for colors, it'll also work for things like text styles. So that's a great way to pull things across your board and use text styles. There's other things we didn't get into as far as all kind of stuff like character, paragraph styles, and glyphs. That's some more complex stuff I'll save for a later video, but that should kind of cover it when it comes to text and transform tools. All right, well, that is how to use text and transform tools in Adobe Illustrator. Really excited for all that we've learned and excited for the next video where we will be talking about layers and lines. That's gonna be our last step before we put all the pieces together to create our geometric poster design. So if you don't wanna miss it, be sure to subscribe. I post a new video every single week. Also like this video if you enjoyed it, and let me know in the comments, is there anything that you wanna learn when it comes to Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign, After Effects, anything Adobe, let me know, and I would love to look into creating a video just for you. So thanks for watching and have a great day.